I'm going to talk to you today about violence against women and girls. A quick content warning: some of the themes contained in this discussion can be difficult to hear about, so take care when watching this video, and you can refer to the learning resource directly if that's an easier way for you to take in this information. In criminology, we know from our research that, of course, violence happens against all groups of people, but that violence against women and girls has typically taken certain specific forms. Over decades, researchers in this area have noticed patterns. For instance, the World Health Organization recently estimated that 1 in 3 women worldwide have been subjected to either physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. Women are also more likely than men to be victims of violence in the family, victims of forced marriage, sex trafficking, and domestic abuse. Much of this research took place on the basis of there being only 2 genders. Today we have a much broader understanding of the spectrum of gender, and more research is needed on how violence manifests. When we talk about trends of violence against women, we don't want to exclude victims of violence who are male or non-binary. At the same time, researchers in this area have been interested to study the noticeable prevalence of these forms of violence against women and the impact that this can have on women's lives. This kind of violence against women has had a big impact on gender inequality in our society. Crimes like domestic violence and sexual violence are underreported and are thought to be much more widespread than existing data might suggest. This is because many victims live with perpetrators and don't want to bring about more violence through reporting, or they might not feel comfortable reporting these crimes to the police. This is something that campaigners in the feminist movement have worked very hard to try to improve through the years. They've argued that we need better resources for female victims of gendered crime, such as victim support services, better training for the police, more women in policing, and more ways for women to discreetly report their abuse and be taken to safe homes. When it comes to sexual violence, there are many misconceptions about sex that are common in our society and which can mean that women don't always feel comfortable reporting rapes. For instance, taking just one example, it's important to know that consent can be withdrawn at any time during a sexual act. This is true of any sexual encounter, whether heterosexual or homosexual. But researchers have suggested that a misunderstanding of this has frequently led to violence perpetrated by men against women. Sometimes a woman might give consent to have sex and then change her mind. This doesn't mean that a man is entitled to continue having sex with her. Under the law, this would be considered rape. But many women feel hesitant to report this kind of crime due to worries that they won't be taken seriously by the police, or that because they said yes at first and then no, that they won't be considered a true victim. This kind of misconception can lead many women to have to live with the experience, stigma, and trauma of being a victim of sexual violence without being able to gain the closure of justice. And this is only one example of the many misconceptions around sex in our society that have continued to perpetuate harm and injustice against women and girls in particular. This is an important area of injustice that needs to change. What criminological research in this area has tried to do is observe patterns, listen to the groundbreaking work of the feminist movement, and understand where injustice might be being perpetuated by the failings of the criminal justice system itself. For more information on this topic, you can read the SCCJR Learning Resource on violence against women and girls. And if you've been a victim of domestic abuse, intimate partner violence, physical or sexual violence, you can find support at the following resources.